a big hello and welcome to my show Unbound. I'm your host Mamtaa, a space curated for real stories of people from different walks of life who have sailed through uncharted waters and lived to tell their inspiring story. Unbound is a deep dive into their journeys to unravel, unearth, uncover various facets of their lives as they remain unstoppable and continue to do the unthinkable. As they open up about their life with me, I'm sure you will find nuggets of wisdom to live unbound too. Ever wondered what lies outside the territory of a bound up life? Well, it's an unconventional path to self discovery, and my effort here is to explore this path with you. So let's unbound together. Hi, today I have with me a very interesting person with an even more interesting journey. Tasting success at a very young age, he holds 26 years of experience as a working professional across the fields of journalism, PR, and brand licensing. By the way, he's all of 41 now, so you can do the maths. A yoga practitioner and author in the making, his quest to learn and explore has made him travel the world. And now he unabashedly promotes the idea of being selfish. Mentoring and coaching people across the globe, he is a logotherapist and so much more. I am so happy to have you with me, Nitin Kalra. Hi, Nitin. Welcome to my podcast, Unbound.
Hey Mamta, it's so good to be around and thank you for having me on the show.
And what an introduction, I had to really do it in one breath. So tell us something about yourself. I mean, of course, we have said a lot, and I'm sure there's a lot more to know.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting introduction that you gave. I don't know how much of it I deserve, but yeah, I did start off pretty early in life when I was just about 15 and a half. Not with the objective of actually going out there making a career, but just took life as it came. Was always curious about learning new things, was always curious about finding out what lies there in the world. And the opportunities started coming by, and I took them one step at a time. Yeah, so I come from a family of defense professionals. My grandfather joined the Royal Indian Navy way back in 1946 and participated in the naval mutiny during the freedom struggle in 1946 itself. Thereafter, obviously continued in the Indian Navy and retired in the early 70s. And my father joined him as well in 1969 and continued to serve in the Indian Navy, but more on the engineering side of the business. But my elder brother, who's 4 years elder to me, actually took the baton on himself, and he joined the Navy, and he's a commissioned officer today, positioned in Delhi. But I was very clear from the beginning that it usually happens that when you belong to a family like that, you would be expected to follow in the boots of your parents. But that really never was with me. I was always like the odd one out in the family. Was very clear that I didn't want to join the Navy. We were always taught to be independent. We were taught to be able to do our own things. So right from the beginning, I had seen my grandparents, my grandfather in particular, my father in particular as well. They were pretty much independent. I mean, they were not dependent really on, the typical household things that, where the women would be cooking and stuff. I mean, my grandfather, my father, they're amazing chefs, and so am I to some extent. We all enjoy our cooking, and we all enjoy our time in the kitchen. We all love to do our own things. There is a certain sense of discipline that was instilled into us from childhood when it came to managing your tasks, managing your assignments, doing things the right way, going out there and achieving things for yourself. And when a task is given, make sure you complete that, irrespective of whatever be the consequences or the costs or the sacrifices that are involved. But it was pretty much a kind of a disciplined life from a perspective that you need to go and do something for yourself. I mean, no matter what you do, how big or small that is in life, it needs to be done properly. And that was something that was taught to
Yeah.
us.
So did this come as a handy trait to you to make it, to quickly move up in life? Did it help you? Did it give you an advantage somewhere in life?
Oh yeah, I think it always did, and it still continues to inspire at least me. I'm not sure about the rest of my family members. I can say that, but yeah, but most of us are. I mean, even today, I at least I ensure that whatever task I'm taking, I try and give my 100%, because when I was running a business for a Japanese firm, my team, I made sure that my team always packed up on time and nobody was in the office after 7, because I still have a very strong belief that if you cannot finish your work in the stipulated working hours that have been given to you, there is no way you are going to finish it after work hours.
Tell me a little more, like how has this sort of manifested in other areas of your life?
I think it is the basic principle of life that if you do something with focus and dedication and concentration, you will be able to achieve the results that you so desire. If you're interested in doing something, do it well. If you're not interested in doing something and you force yourself to do it, you will never be able to achieve the results. And this is a key element that I actually learned when I studied logotherapy, because in that one of the key principles of logotherapy is working on your experiential side, which is about living in the moment. Because if you are able to enjoy the moment that you are doing, and it is in all walks of life, whether you're working, whether you're studying, whether you're reading, whether you're writing, whether you're watching a movie, whether you're working out, if you are able to focus on that one thing at a time rather than multitasking. And I'm not against people who multitask. In fact, I am possibly one of the so-called best known multitaskers in the business when it comes to my professional life, and that's what my team always used to say, that I could multitask a lot. I'm not against that, but I'm just saying that if you're able to focus on one activity and give your 100%, you are definitely bound to get results that you desire, and nothing can stop you from getting the results that you want if you're able to focus on it. And I think this principle applies everywhere, and it's a learning that my grandmother taught me, and I always looked up to it. I always followed it all through my student life, all through my career as well, where she told me, do it well, instead of just taking it and telling the whole world that you are doing it, but then eventually you're not doing it. And that's what is happening in the workplaces today, where most people are facing this problem, where they try to show they're working, they try to show they're busy, but in reality they're not.
Yeah, that's so very well said. And there comes the first pearl of wisdom. So, did you actually always knew what you wanted to do, or did one thing lead to the other? Like, how did life really happen? So, you were telling us about starting very early at the age of 15. So what started to happen? You were young and you started to figure out that you wanted to work, or what was it?
So I was always interested in writing, and from a very young age, I think I was about 9 or 10, that I used to write these short poems and short stories and send them. I used to live in Bombay, so I used to send them out to the Indian Express newspaper. They used to have like a kids corner. Thankfully, my school inculcated a lot of habits about reading newspapers from a very young age, and I was very fond of reading a newspaper every day of my life. In fact, I still read newspapers in newspaper form, not on the digital form, in a paper form even today. I used to write these poems and short stories, and they used to get published. And I would earn some little money. Back in those days, sometimes 20 rupees and 30 rupees. I think the maximum I earned was like a 50 rupees for one of the poems that I had written. I was like, the money was not the main motivator, but it would always make you feel nice that you were getting rewarded for your work. And that kind of motivated me to continue writing. So I started writing opinions. So I would write letters to the editors about various things that were happening in the society, about the country and whatever. And I realized two things. One, that I was interested in politics and general administration that was happening around in the world. and two, that I was good at writing. So I thought, why not pursue something in journalism? So I actually decided to take up political science as my major in college, and I pursued my degree in political science. And parallelly, since I was interested in writing, I just I think I was lucky that I just happened to get some chance. There was a newspaper, a kids newspaper that was getting launched, and this was 1996. And they were looking for some young writers who were more like students to join their board. And I remember I just walked into their office. It was in Churchgate, somewhere, and I met this wonderful lady over there. And I told her, I said, you know what, I'm from so and so school, and I've just finished my 10th, and I'm now joining college, but I'm interested in writing. And I actually took my stories and my poems, which I had collected in a file, and showed it to her. And she said, "Wow, this looks interesting, but this is not journalism, because this is not articles. Will you be able to write features?" And I said, "Okay, I'm willing to learn. Give me something to write." Luckily, this was the time when the Olympic Games were happening in Atlanta in 1996, and she told me that, why don't you do like a three part story on the Olympic Games, on the history of the Olympic Games. And I said, okay, I would do that. So I went back home. I used to have some encyclopedias, so I removed those and did my research. I asked my grandfather, I asked my father, I said, whatever you guys know about the Olympics, tell me. And they did that. And I wrote this three-part story series, and I just went a week later, gave it to her, and I thought maybe it's okay. She didn't. She just looked at them and she said, "Okay, I'll come back to you." And I thought, okay, I've given it a shot. Let's see if it happens or not. To my surprise, the following Friday, when the newspaper came out, and my mother picked up a copy on the way to her office from the railway station, she, from a public phone, called me and she said, "You know what? There's an article of yours that has come on the Olympic Games." And I was like, "Really?" And I rushed to the railway station to pick that copy, and I looked at it and I was so happy. From there on, there was no looking back, because within the first 3 months of my starting off journalism with this paper, I wrote an article for the Indian Express, which was a full-fledged article on the education system that was prevailing in our country. And again, this was very surprising, because one day when I wrote the article, it came in the press on a Tuesday morning. I was in my class, my political science professor, and I was in grade 11 that time. My political science professor came into the classroom with this newspaper and started reading this article. And, I was like, this sounds very familiar. And then at the end of it, she tells me, she said, she kind of told the whole class, and this article has been written by one of us, and here is the guy. And I was like, so embarrassed at that point of time, as I was like, okay, I really need to sink this feeling in, that people have started taking note of what I'm doing in my life. And it was phenomenal. And then after that, I went on to write almost around 2,000 articles in prominent dailies, right from Times of India, Indian Express, The Statesman. In 5 years of my college life, I actually got almost 2,000 plus articles. I was amongst the most busiest, I would say, of freelancers that were operating, and probably one of the well-paid ones as well. And that really gave me a boost up till 2001, when I finished my college. But then after that, I was like, this is not what I want to do for a living. And I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. I had 5 years of experience, and it is again very surprising, because after I finished my graduation, my mother forced me to do a course in journalism. And I still recall this. When I went to apply at this course at the Bombay College of Journalism, the dean of the college actually came out with my application in her hand, and she said, "Are you sure you're here to study or to teach?" "No, I'm here to study." And she was like, "But with your experience, you should be teaching here." And I'm like, "You know what, ma'am, I'm very happy to do that, but somebody should go and explain this to my mother, who still thinks that without a degree, I'm useless." So here I am because I need to get a degree to show it to her. So I did that.
Yeah. So till here, were these the life, would you call them some of the life transforming moments for you? Or were they, would you call some of them as to be point of no return?
I met some really wonderful people during the course. Some of those friendships I developed and nurtured still continue to be strong. In fact, I have friends who helped me in the early days of journalism. I made friends in the PR world at that point of time. Very recently, I caught up with a couple of friends who are like 25-year-old now with me. And those were the guys who had started their careers back in those days, almost at the same time as mine. And today, everyone's settled in their own lives. And we recently had kind of a mini reunion to enjoy the life and the moments that we used to spend together, almost 20-25 years ago. So I think I made some fantastic friendships. I made some fantastic relationships, which lasted at least till now. And at that point of time, it was just about going with the flow because I was very young. I was still in college. I was just wanting to do things just to gain experience, and that's what I was doing. In fact, I would say that my first mentor in life, who I met in 1997, and he transformed my life completely. He was the guy who for the first 10 years of my work life actually guided me, held my hand and told me, you're not meant to be just a journalist. You're meant to have you have a business mind, and you're meant to kind of do a lot many more things. And he pushed me to the brink of saying that, I would want you to start your own business. He in fact gave me my first PR assignment and said, why don't you do this? And I was quite happy with that. And once I started doing that, I really enjoyed it. So I gave up on journalism, and I said, let's go on the other side of the fence and see how the world looks from there. I wanted to do something new, so I did that. Started my own PR agency, got a number of clients, largely in the entertainment field. Did a lot of events, did a lot of page three parties, and managed a lot of celebrities back in those days, and was part of the whole entertainment circuit. And whatever I did, as I said, I always follow a principle: do it with your heart. And I did that. And again, during that process, I made a lot of good friends who still continue to value the friendship and the relationships we built at that time. And many of them have moved on. They've become very successful today in their fields. Some of them have become super successful in the field of PR, in the field of journalism, but they're all in touch. I mean, most of them are in touch with me. And again, social media plays a major role because you keep following them, they keep following you.
Yeah, yeah. World is such a parallel reality now. Here, just I would want to, reflect on one more question. See, you just said that you found this mentor. Now, many times when you're young, you're gullible. Maybe you're also very vulnerable. There is a youth energy. You want to do too many things. You're not sure, and somebody comes there and puts this idea in your head, and you start moving along with it. Are there moments of self doubt, or are there also moments of, I don't know what, why is this person helping me out, or why is he being so good to me? Is this good for me? Did you go through these moments of doubt and not being sure, or what gave you the confidence to just quickly jump off the cliff and say that, oh, I want to get into this adventure? So how did you really unbound in those moments?
I think it depends upon what time of your life journey you are at. So the first 10 years, I would say, because I didn't have any responsibility and I was young, I was frivolous, I was adventurous. I just wanted to go and experiment at whatever life was throwing at me before I really decided, pinpointed, and said, you know what, now this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It was okay. But after that, when I actually shut down my PR company and I moved on for better opportunities, and then I met my second mentor, who kind of pulled me into this new profession called brand licensing. So no, it was interesting because I had already gone into brand licensing in 2006, and this was the time when so I was with Star TV and I was doing well and enjoying my life, and then in 2009 something triggered in me, and I said, you know what, I think I'm done with this corporate stuff, and I don't want to really do this. I would rather kind of go back doing something that I liked. So I evaluated all my options, and one of the things I always wanted to do was to study abroad. And my grandmother had this dream that some child of hers from the family should go to UK and study. And this was the time she was actually falling in. She was almost in her 80s and almost bedridden. And I just spoke to her one day, and she said, "You know what? If you really want to, I mean, you've got decent money that you've earned in the last 12, 13 years. At your age, at 29, you are already sitting with like 12, 13 years of experience. So take a break, go out for 2 years, study, and see if you want to take a new career path." And I said, "Yeah, that's a good advice to get." And I
Wow, at
spoke.
that age, for someone to be able to look into things with such a vision, I mean, it is incredible. I mean, it does seem that you are very, very inspired by your grandmother, are you?
Oh, yes. In fact, she was the one who always told me that, learning should never stop. And she herself never went to school. So she had this regret all her life that, had she got an opportunity to go to school, she would have done wonders. But in reality, the wonders that she did was phenomenal. And I was always tell her that, what you've done, I don't think so. Even an MBA would end up doing that. And that's when I actually promised her that I'm going to write a book on her life at one point of time. Uh, the title was of which is called "The Girl Who Did Nothing." And I'm actually happy to share that I've started kind of curating that book now.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Many
and
congratulations. That's a great start, Nitin.
Thank you. And I hope that someday I will be able to present that book across to the world. I mean,
We are certain
unfortunately, we
about it,
lost.
and you're coming back on the show with that book very soon. So when are you slating the launch? Like, have you? Is it coming anytime soon, or?
No, so surprisingly, again, surprise, surprise. This is not the first book that I have. My first book is almost ready, and the working title is called Heartbeats, and it's a book that I am going to launch first, hopefully by the end of this year, and that will be followed by the second book, which will be The Girl Who Did Nothing.
Superb, superb. We'll look forward to both your adventures, and we will have you back for on the show for that. But now I wanted to really come to some of these questions because I think this is where you really start to break out when things go challenging. It's great to have right people. It's great to have circumstances working your way, getting the right kind of breaks and all of that. But I'm sure there must have been some challenges, some fears, certain things you would have really looked at squarely in life before you went on a path of your own calling. So do you recollect some of those, or are they very vividly in front of you? Can you share some of those instances with us?
So for me, there was a phase in my life which where I started having a lot of self doubt, and where I started having a lot of questions about myself. This was in 2005. When I had just come out of my PR business, and I had shut it down. It was a running business, and I shut it down for an opportunity that came my way, which didn't go the way I wanted it to go, unfortunately. And I was going through a really bad phase in my career, in my life at that point of time, to the extent that I was going through a depression, and I was cut off completely from the world, and I was at home for about three full months, not talking to anybody, not focusing on what I wanted to really do. And I was just sulking about the fact that why did I even think about closing my business and thinking about doing something new, which didn't go my way. And that's when I got a lot of support from my family, especially my father, who came in and spoke to me once, and he said, you know, there's nothing for you to lose. You've just gained another experience. You've started a business in the past. I think you can start it again. Nothing stops you from doing that. And he just told me one thing. I mean, just remember, I'm around. If you need me, I'm here for you. He didn't say anything more than that. And I think that kind of stayed with me as a statement even today, when I sometimes feel a little sad, or I feel a little let down by the world, or by people around me. I just think about myself and I said, you know what, but I'm not alone. So that gives me a lot of motivation and courage. But at the same time, I think, again, life has its own turns and own ways of rewarding. I would not say rewarding, I would say more like of taking care of its own people. And my faith and my belief has always been very, very strong in the universe. And I said, this is fabulous. So I pulled myself back, and luckily I thought of restarting my PR business. I also thought of going back into journalism. I started calling a few friends, and I started calling a few colleagues to figure out if there were opportunities for me to look at. And one fine day, just like a magic wand, I got a call from a wonderful lady at Star TV, and she said, "I'm doing something new, and I'd like you to come and join my team." And there I was. I just landed at the office, and she gave me a fabulous opportunity. She introduced me to this world of licensing and consumer products. And at first, I was like, okay, I mean, it's a new thing. Let's learn something. There's nothing for us to lose. And yeah, it was that day and it's today. It's been like almost a good 16 years that I've been part of this industry. It's been a fabulous journey, working with some of the best known brands in the business. While I was in Star, I got opportunities to work with brands like Simpsons, Ice Age, Avatar, Alvin and Chipmunks, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? I worked on Channel V, ESPN, Star Sports, Star Parivar. I mean, the whole gamut.
At Unbound, we believe in the power of unhinged minds and untamed ideas of everyday people. As we sit to talk with some of them, we are listening to your voice too. So share your thoughts, ideas, and takeaways from this podcast as a review on Apple Podcasts, or just drop us a message on Instagram at d.mamtaa. And remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast to stay connected with us. And now, back to our Unbound conversation.
As I'm talking to you, this seems just so too good to be true. It's kind of something like a fantasy that one is living through, exactly knowing where to head, where to go, how to be there, and just zoom getting into the future and doing it for yourself. So this is quite incredible. Tell me something, Nitin. We all have, at some point or the other, we all have some internal conflicts, our own sort of vices which hold us against ourselves. Sometimes they are the external detractors, sometimes they are the internal ones. Have you identified any of those patterns or conflicts within yourself? And if yes, then how do you deal with them?
I think each one of us actually go through this phase where we have conflicts, where we have certain self doubts, or these moments where we suddenly start questioning ourselves. More than that, I think what happens is our faith in the universe, in the creator, in God, or whoever we all believe in for that matter, kind of starts shaking, and we suddenly start questioning our own existence, and we say, is this something that it's really worth, or am I the right person at the right place, or am I at the wrong place, or whatever. So there have been moments like these with me, and especially in 2018, which was actually a game-changing moment in my life. In fact, it's a moment that actually transformed my life completely. And this is the time where I had an extremely personal spiritual experience. In that experience, it actually gave me not just the exposure to understand that I was a weak human being, but at the same time, it also made me realize that I was a stronger human being. And the difference between the two was so small and so thin in terms of the line of understanding that I think I realized that there is an absolute power in this world, in the form of a spiritual power, in the form of a power that we all have to believe in, or we all believe in, whether we like it or we don't, whether we believe it or we don't, but we do recognize inside of us that there is a power that kind of guides us or binds us together. So, I would say that I see myself as a very different person prior to 2018 and a very different person post 2018. That's when my quest for finding the meaning or finding the purpose in life actually started. And I got introduced to this wonderful concept of logotherapy, which I decided to pursue, which not only helped me as a person, as an individual, but as also now I think is also helping others in their pursuit of meaning and purpose. So yes, I think these are all moments that we all go through at our own pace. I was lucky and fortunate, as always, to actually have experienced it much earlier in my life. And it took a different career path, or rather, not a career path, it took a different life path for me altogether.
Yeah. So tell me, Nitin, dealing with others' judgments, notions, preconceived ideas, does it bother you? I mean, I'm sure you must have faced it all, right? We all face it, that you make a personal choice, people have judgment about it. You make a professional choice, people have judgment about it. How do you deal
We
with
all go
it?
through it. Yeah, you're right. When you say that, every one of us actually have to live through with this opinions about other people and what they feel about you, and so on and so forth. I think somewhere down the line, the key, or at least the core that I believe is to handle this kind of outside pressure, is to be strong within yourself. It's very important to actually first know what you want to do, who you are as a person, what you do as an individual, what do you stand for, what are your values, what are your principles, what is it that makes you as an individual, and being stronger in your own self helps you to actually handle or tackle the challenges, the nuances that the world is actually throwing at you, that the people are actually throwing at you. If you are at peace with your own self, then I think nothing else can affect you.
Yeah, very interestingly, just this morning I was watching Alia Bhatt's interview, and what she said really did make sense to me. She said that I don't take uh, people or universe as a responsibility upon me, asking them that each and every one on this planet is supposed to love me, is supposed to like me. There obviously will be people who would not like me for who I am, what I am. And my job is not to keep focusing on that. My job is to do what I want to do. And in the whole game, if there are people who like me, it's great. If there are people who don't like me, it's all right. So I just leave them to their own this thing. And I don't take everything personally, So with every kind of comment and everything, because there's, like you said, that there's a lot of psychology behind it. There are people who are even paid for doing these kind of trolls. There are people who are earning their livelihood by doing these kind of things. So you really have to stop personally, or kind of detach yourself to it to some extent also,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's definitely makes a lot of sense, and that's in fact one of the reasons why I always tell people that it's important to be selfish. It's a program that I run for corporates and for people, for individuals,
To
as a
be
life coach.
selfish.
Yes,
Did you say selfish,
yes,
Nitin?
I did, and this is exactly the reaction I get from a lot of people when I actually say that it's important to be selfish, because in being selfish doesn't really mean that you have to go out there and hurt someone else. Being selfish really means that you need to first take care of your own self, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to take up all the challenges that are there in the world around you. I mean, we all have traveled by a plane, and you must be hearing this very common announcement that they make on the flight, that in case of emergency, please you wear your own oxygen mask first before others. Now they don't say that because they really love you and they really want you to be alive and the rest of the people to die. No, that's not the objective. The objective is very simple. There's a science behind it, because if you yourself stop breathing, you can't help the other person. So the whole idea here is to take that analogy and that philosophy and say that, you know what, first heal yourself. First, be selfish about looking after your own self. Nothing in this world is more important than the peace of my mind. So I curated this program called Be Selfish, which I run in corporate programs, and every time I send the program details out to an HR, I get a call from them, and they say, "Can you please change the topic? We don't want you to promote individual selfish behavior. We want you to promote teamwork." And I'm like, you know what? You will find a million coaches who will go out there and train your teams to work as teams. But I am more interested in your teams as individual people, because it's these individual pearls who are going to bind together and make a necklace that'll be important to your company. It won't be, because if even one pearl is having a problem, you will see that the necklace won't be complete.
That's very insightful. Like I said, you are definitely destiny's own child. It has chosen many things to happen through you. And this brings me to another question about, so you are obviously all about learning and you're adding many things to your journey. You are not leaving any stone unturned, as I can clearly see. There comes an opportunity and you're up for that. But what about unlearnings during this whole journey of being that 10-year-old newspaper reading child who has an avid interest in sending entries and writing articles, to now a logotherapist, a soon to be published author? What's been some of your key unlearnings through this journey?
I think each one of us has a journey, and each one of us actually have a lot of learnings and unlearnings on the way. We make changes. I mean, we are human beings, and as human psychology, as a human mind, we constantly go through our own experiences of life, and as we go through them, we kind of tweak our ways or mend our ways of thinking and behaving and interacting with the world. I've done a lot of that in my life as well. I mean, from being this spontaneous, frivolous kid who was up there to try anything and everything that life was presenting to him, to reaching a stage where I had to really sit down and decide that what is my definitive future course of action going to be. From taking time out in terms of my own personal character and behavior, for that matter. I was very impulsive. Not just impulsive, I was really facing issues in terms of anger management, for example, at one point of time, which became much more sober. I was not a very open person in terms of an interaction. It's very strange now when I go out in the world and I tell people about how you should be open, how you should communicate. But there was a time when I was very closed. I didn't have a personality where people would walk up to me and be very open or very comfortable in talking to me about things, and vice versa. I was a very closed person myself. I mean, you could ask some of my very close family friends and they would tell you that what I was, maybe before 2018 was a very different person to what I am today. So that whole jovial nature, the whole happy-go-lucky nature, the whole positivity that came into my life post this 2018 experience, which is part of my book, and eventually when I started learning about logotherapy and I got inspired by it, because logotherapy is very simple. It talks about the meaning of your life. It tells you, in a nutshell, if I tell you, it basically says if you know the why of your life, everything else that's happening in your life, you will be able to deal with it. So the whole question is, you need to know the purpose, and that's what a logo basically is derived from the word. It's a Greek word from called logos, which means meaning. This particular school of thought, the school of psychology, was actually called meaning therapy. Way back in the 30s and the 40s when it started, and eventually it was termed as logotherapy. So a lot of people get confused in terms of what it really is. but it's nothing more than just finding the meaning and purpose of your life, and that's what logotherapy is all about.
Very interesting. So, of course, I mean, this kind of lays the foundation to a lot of my other questions, which is that you are an avid reader and you have got influence to the extent that you have added another profession, as another way of being with books. But what are some of the, let's say, movies, travel, shows, interactions that have really moved you from within? Like, you've not been the same person after that.
I wouldn't say so many of movies or TV shows or anything, because I've always been more of a book and paper kind of a pen and paper kind of a person. Several books have influenced me a lot, which I mean, the number one, of course, is Man's Search for Meaning, which is by Viktor Frankl. I've also been extremely touched by a book called Come Be My Light by Mother Teresa. This is again one of my most favorite books and one of my cherished books that I always like to read. It just goes on to show that no matter how much you do in your life, you still want that acceptance. You still want that acceptance, that feeling of being accepted by the universe, as you doing something. And this is a beautiful journey of how Mother presents her story of her journey and her suffering and her internal dilemma of doing things and yet not being accepted by God. I admire her. I read a lot of her, and I've been. I've been fortunate to actually visit the Mother House several times as part of my travels, and I get peace and solace when I'm in Mother House. I mean, it's one sad story that I always will remember for the rest of my life. But she unfortunately passed away on my birthday, and I will always remember that day. But I do spare a thought every day on my birthday. I do feel sad about it, but then you know what? That's what life is all about, and I take the positives of it, and I say, you know what? That's the way that she inspired us, and that's where she left us at.
That's a very sacred sharing, in fact. Yeah. And what are some of the books that you're currently reading? Are you into reading these days, or are you more like, those audiobooks or podcasts, or what are you doing these days?
I'm still, like I mentioned, I'm still pretty much a pen and paper guy. So I still pretty much read my books, and I've never ever read a book online.
And that brings us to my next question, that what anchors you back to your Zen state? So whenever there is any kind of a discord, or I don't know, upheaval would be a very strong word to say, but there is some sort of a disconnect or imbalance or disharmony, what brings you really back to your Zen state?
I would say there are two things. One is, yes, if I'm going through a really bad phase or a low phase, I would not say bad phase, but a low phase in my life, and everybody does that. Everybody has bad days. The best thing I do is I go for a walk very close to the nature, and I have a very peculiar thing that I would like to share. I actually talk to my grandmother even today. And even though she's not with us, I have a very peculiar way. I just go sit under an open sky and just talk my heart out to her, and tell her everything that I wanted to tell her. In terms of the way the universe tells me, the mind, the thoughts that come afterwards, after those conversations, I think they are a source of inspiration, because my grandmother was one person who actually knew everything about my life, right from all the good things and the bad things that I was doing. She was somebody who knew inside out. So she was more like a best friend to me, and I would go and tell her anything and everything under the sun. Something that I miss now, ever since she passed away a few years ago. But I still feel she's there. So I generally find time, and if I'm low, I just go out in the open, find a place where the sky is crystal clear, and then I talk to her. And I do get my answers after that. So that's one thing I do very often.
That's a very sacred sharing. In fact, thank you so much, Nitin, for sharing that, because I think not many people like to talk about their vulnerabilities, their spots of where it hurts, or when they how they deal with it. Not many people like to talk or be very open about those things, but this was a very very sacred sharing. Thank you so much, and I think it gives a lot of other people also a lot of courage to say it, that okay, if I have something which is very peculiar about me, so be it. I mean, just be in acceptance of that's my response mechanism to things. So that's very very
I
sweet.
think it's very natural in terms of how it comes across, because we as human beings have been brought up in a certain fashion, right? And especially boys and men, we are told that you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to get emotional, you're not supposed to express your emotional side. But that's one thing that I have, when you ask me about unlearning, that's one thing I have unlearned in my life, that we are all at the end of the day human beings. When we are born, it's such a brilliant thing. When we are born, whether we are a boy or a girl, we still cry. So what then divides us and says, what, you're a girl and you can cry, and you're a boy, you cannot cry? And that is ridiculous according to me. Because a lot of problems, and I now as a life coach, when I deal with people, and especially when I deal with men, I realize that each one of them has a very very strong emotional side, but they are so scared of actually expressing that side, just for that thing that people will judge, or what will the world think about me. But that's what I do in my coaching session. In fact, I'm quite happy and proud of the fact that most of the male clients that I have, I actually encourage them to come to me and then cry. And I tell them it's okay to cry. It's okay to just let go of your emotions. It's fine. Years of emotional suppression that they are facing, and they are in an environment, they're in a sacred environment or a secure environment where nobody's really going to judge them.
So, I mean, we never actually thought of that side, and that's very interesting that you're bringing this up. That we always say that patriarchy has its own burden on the woman's side, but nobody can really see that so much of driving the whole thing from a male's point of view, and always saying that, oh, you are the man of the family, you are the breadwinner, you got to do this, typecasting them in those roles as the strong person who's got to be the bearer, etc. That nobody has actually thought that there is a flip side to their emotional well-being there, and that's so beautiful. Very well said, Nitin. I'm going to quickly now change the tempo of the show, and just as we are heading towards the end, there are certain quick questions that I'd like to ask. So, what keeps you going day on day? What keeps this fire burning? What's the quest really that you kickstart your day and say that, yes, I have this another day to look forward to? Quick answers.
I think it's the quest for meaning. It's the quest to search the meaning. It's the journey.
Okay. What about one big learning that COVID has been?
Take care of yourself and your family. I mean, nobody else is going to come to help you.
Right. Your mantra for dealing with failures and mistakes.
They are learnings. They're not failures. I don't think so. They are failures.
All right. One thing you would like to change about our education system.
Everything.
One thing you wish parents never said to children.
Never said to children. I would rather put it in a fashion to say that every parent should tell their children that it's okay to not be okay.
All right. As you say, one thing you wish you knew at the age of 20.
One thing I knew, how to take care of my health.
All right. One thing you wish that never existed in the world.
Money.
One thing you wish which could exist forever.
I think what will always exist is nature, and I just wish it existed in its truest natural form, which unfortunately we've destroyed.
Okay. You end your day with?
A hot cup of chamomile tea.
And what do you see yourself accomplishing in next 5 years?
I don't plan that long in my life now. I used to do that earlier, but now I don't. I just go with the flow. I just want to enjoy every day as it comes.
What's your biggest weakness?
My kids.
The last question, life is, just complete the sentence. Life is.
To be lived.
And with that, we have come to the end of the show. And I really wish you a stupendous success ahead, Nitin. Keep moving, keep making world a better place. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me. And it was a pleasure talking to you. All the best, and look forward to many more interactions.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I would love to know from you what idea or insight you unboxed from today's conversation. Just drop me a message over LinkedIn or in my inbox, and remember to follow this podcast so that when the next episode drops, you can join me for yet another one too. Keep coming and keep unbounding. Till then, this is your host Mamtaa signing off.